the Cold War suddenly turned hot as Russian Soviet nuclear missiles were discovered in Cuba in '62, the need arose for how to make our brand new submarine-based missiles usable. Submarines had to expose their positions to be reachable, and that compromised their stealth and security. As we will see, the best method was found to be airborne, very low-frequency radio. It preserved the sub's stealth by penetrating the ocean and was mobile enough to be hard to target. A win-win solution that became known as TACAMO.
When nuclear-powered submarines were first developed and the USS Nautilus reports were underway on nuclear power, at that point USS Nautilus needed to be refueled every 13 years, and crews could submerge for 60 days at a time and operate deep submerged. But before that time, our submarines had to surface every 24 hours to light off their diesel generators in order to charge their batteries so they could operate on battery power for the next 24 hours. And it was during that surface time when periscopes and antennas were sticking up out of the water that we could communicate with submarines. But when they went deep, there was no way to communicate, and they were rather useless to the Navy, not being able to communicate. On my tour at the Naval Air Development Center, and I really was with the Naval Air Station Johnsville supporting, and my job was as a flight support coordinator for the Naval Air Development Center. And the Chief of Naval Operations came to the Naval Air Development Center with the Navy's #1 priority project to develop a communication system to communicate with deep submerged submarine. And part of his words of wisdom were, this is the Navy's #1 priority project, take charge and move out. At least at that time, I had arrived at the Naval Air Development Center having just come from the Airborne Early Warning Wing Pacific, and we were flying the Super Radar Constellation. We knew there was a Super Radar Connie down at the Naval Air Test Center, Patuxent River. Not a good photograph, but our Super Radar Constellation was kind of I can't say it was a beautiful bird. The Super Connie, without the radar antennas, really was. It was a graceful and aerodynamic, beautiful. Brought the Super Radar Connie up to the Naval Air Development Center, took everything out of the back end, all the electronics, AEW, ECM equipments, and had a humongous workspace. And we had a huge winch installed in the back of our Super Radar Connie, attached a hose pipe on the belly, and we had a 5-mile antenna. Recall one flight, especially to Bermuda and back, and that was early in the game, and we were trailing that 5-mile antenna. And we'd arranged for a traveling airspace from 15,000 feet down to and including 5,000 feet. It just happened that thank goodness we had arranged for this properly, because an admiral, the commander of 2nd Fleet, had planned an operation for that day also. And because we were the Navy's #1 priority project, we did our thing, and the good admiral and 2nd Fleet had to stand by. The communications gear, the antenna equipment, went to Pax River, got installed in a C-130. 2 TACAMO squadrons were established, Guam and then Barbers Point, Rota, Spain, then Pax River, and now back at Tinker Air Force Base with the Strategic Communications Wing.
From prototype in '63 in a Connie, the concept went operational in '64, well suited to being hosted on a Lockheed C-130 Hercules. And the airborne VLF continues today aboard a Boeing 707 variant since 1989. From the beginning, the Navy repeatedly chose Collins Radio of Richardson, Texas as the provider.